many voice actors in Los Angeles go through this thing of, my work has changed. I don't know what to do. I'm not booking like I used to. I don't know how to communicate with my agents. I'm not getting copy anymore. What do I do? What do I do? And the answer to that is take the reins of your own career. And that in and of itself will be a game changer.
VO Atlanta is the largest annual event for the voiceover community, with over 40 states and over a dozen countries represented. It really is the premier event for talent, for agents and producers, for directors and resource providers from all around the world. You know, it's also an absolutely amazing place to network, too. The conference kicks off Thursday, March 28th, 2019, and runs till March 31st. I'm Suzanne Lynn, and let's jump into the VO Atlanta podcast. Bess is a 35-year voiceover veteran, and her career has spanned most genres in voiceover, including commercial, film, TV, narration, gaming, and much more. And if you attend VO Atlanta this year, you're going to get to hear her kick the whole thing off, because Bess is this year's keynote speaker for VO Atlanta 2019. So, Kay, as the keynote speaker this year, you're going to be starting the conference off with, at that point, an undivided group. So it's going to contain e-learners, gaming, promo, commercial, audiobook. What is the common theme that you want all voice actors to know at that point?
I think in a large way, the keynote really doesn't have much to do with voiceover.
Okay.
That it really has to do with being ourselves and how key that is to sort of know who we are, what we stand for, what we believe, what matters to us, what we value. The thing that each of us brings to voiceover is our unique self. Mm-hmm. And so before we walk in to redo a demo or to brand ourselves, we have to know who we are. Otherwise, we're just sort of allowing other people, I think, to tell us who we are by virtue of what our voice sounds like. And I don't think
true.
that, yeah, and I don't think that our voice, the actual, moving together of our vocal cords, is necessarily a reflection of who we are. And so then we can end up with branding that doesn't fit, and a website that doesn't feel authentic, and demos that don't quite ring true. So I think it's all that other stuff that undergirds a really successful career and a long career in voiceover, and that is really knowing who you are. So that's essentially what the subject will be, and I think what ties us all together, because it doesn't matter if we're in video games or doing commercial work or e-learning. Each of us brings ourselves to the job that we do and to the relationships that we cultivate. So that's our common thread, I think.
Kate, let's talk about auditioning and how important that is. What kind of attitude or mindset should we have on that?
As voice actors, we have to grow accustomed to loving to audition, because that's our job, is to audition. That's all we have control over. And so if you can't fall in love with doing the audition, you should look for different work.
Wow.
Yeah. I love to audition, and the work is always a surprise to me. When it comes, when a booking comes, it's always a surprise, and it just makes me so happy. And so that's at the heart of it to me, is really loving to audition.
That's a lot of rejection.
It's mostly rejection. I probably do. I stopped counting the last 2 years, but I want to say for a few years, I kept all of my auditions for a year, and then looked at how many auditions I had over the course of the year, and then put it up against how many I booked. I auditioned between 700 and 900.
What?
Like, I had that many auditions.
Wow.
Right? And I would say if I booked 5 to 10, and a lot of those are, become recurring, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a lot more work, right? So it's not like I only worked 5 days out of the year, but I look at particular bookings and I go, wow, maybe 5 to 10. So if I focused on all the auditions I didn't get, I may as well hang it up, right?
And you're Bess.
Well,
like that gives all of us hope.
Well, I think it's a dose of reality, I mean, I think, too, that a lot of those auditions in the last 4 years were game and animation things, so they were new. They
Right.
were new to me, and I knew I wasn't going to book them, and my agents are so great that they send me everything that is right for me, and sometimes things that aren't,
Right. To stretch
So,
you.
yeah, and to
Mhm.
see, to sort of test my own limits, right?
Mhm.
Can I do that? Am I willing to do that? Do I want to do that?
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I book very, very little commercial work anymore. And I think that's because there are so many more players on the field.
Right.
And so if I simply said, oh my goodness, I'm not booking commercial work anymore, I guess I'll find another way to make a living,
Yeah.
um, and don't think it hasn't crossed my mind at various times. It has, but I think I've come around to, well, wait a second. There are lots of avenues in voiceover. What do you want to do?
Mhm.
And so I think that asking myself that question, my sort of innate curiosity about what's out there and what would that be like to do that job, and do I have the skills? And if I don't have those skills, am I willing to go get them? I'm a curious
Mm.
person, and so I finally figured out to apply that curiosity to my own vocation, and just keep looking for new ways to do things. So
Reinvent
um,
yourself.
yeah, reinvention. Oh my goodness, is key.
How special is an opportunity like VO Atlanta?
Oh, I went last year for the first time. It was such a small and caring community of people. There were 700 people at that conference who all in one way, shape, or another embodied that sort of spirit, of goodness and kindness and love for their work and love for their colleagues. And then I was just really struck by the level of expertise of presenters, and I will say this, as somebody who comes from Los Angeles, from what I am now perceiving as sort of is a goal for many people, to sort of work in the Los Angeles
Absolutely.
market, and I, and I imagine that there can be a sense that really only the people who come from LA and New York are the experts. And I didn't find that to be true. It certainly is true that those people who have come from those cities and who've been doing voiceover for a long time in those particular markets have their particular expertise. But also what I found were people all over the country who have cultivated careers on their own and who have put together business plans and who have figured out social media and have figured out how to use LinkedIn and know how to communicate directly with corporations who need internal, videos done. Like, what extraordinary self-motivation. And I was just blown away. I was so impressed and recognized, I think it sort of put a mirror up for me of all the things I don't know how to do. By virtue of doing voiceover from where I've done it for so long, and that we all have skills that we possess, and they are complementary. I have a lot to learn from people who don't live in Los Angeles or New York, and
Wow.
so I felt like I had something to give, and also that I had a lot to receive, and so I love the conference. I mean, if you couldn't tell,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, and I'm so happy that I was introduced to it.
What would you say to someone who's thinking about going, like, man, this is going to be a little bit of a stretch. I live in, Wichita. I'm really struggling, but I want to learn more. What would you say to someone about going to VO Atlanta?
Well, I have to tell you, I've had a couple of coaching clients. This is last year before I ever went. I had a couple of coaching clients who were really feeling alone and a little lost in how they move forward, how they step in the door of doing voiceover. And I think when you aren't in a sort of a city where agents kind of drive the opportunities, I think you can feel quite isolated. And I suggested it to them. I said, I know this is going to feel really daunting to you, but if you can swing it, I suggest you go to VO Atlanta, because it's a giant room full of people exactly like you, who want to connect, don't know how to connect, and come to VO Atlanta to find opportunity. So I want to say, even before I went last year, I think I had 3 people that I've coached came. And so I've invited a few more this year, and invited people from the Los Angeles market too, who are sort of like, well, I don't really think I need that.
Right.
And it was sort of like, well, you may not, but you may be surprised. So I do encourage people to attend, no matter what your goals might be. And if your goal is simply to connect to other voice actors and not feel so alone, you're going to walk away filled, So,
What do you hope that people take away from VO Atlanta this year?
I hope that they not become overwhelmed, because
That's a big one.
It is a big one,
Yeah.
right? Because there's no expiration date on anybody's career. It's a long road. It's as long as you want it to be.
We invite you to check out the VO Atlanta website for the latest news and updates at voatlanta.me. And of course, you can register for the conference that's happening March 28th through the 31st. Hope to see you then.